Happy New Year. Or at least, that's what they want you to say while they're picking your pockets for the final time this year. While you're chilling the champagne, the world is burning on your dime. Look at the headlines. Just today, the government froze hundreds of millions in childcare funds for Minnesota because a guy with a smartphone, not a federal agent, not a high-paid auditor, exposed that your money was being funneled into empty buildings while ghost daycare centers laughed all the way to the bank. They call it a spigot. They talk about turning it off. But whose water is in that pipe? It's yours. It's your sweat, your overtime, and your family's future being treated like a slush fund for scammers and warmongers. They've spent all of 2025 telling you that one big, beautiful bill was going to save you. They promised you relief while they built an external revenue service to squeeze every last drop from the global machine. They tell you that you're patriotic for surrendering 40% of your life to a system that can't even track a $100 million fraud in a Minneapolis strip mall. Enough. If we're going to survive 2026, we have to stop playing by their rules. If you want to understand why a tax strike isn't just an option, but a moral imperative, you have to stop looking at the present and start looking at the DNA of this country. You've been conditioned to think that paying into the system is your civic duty, but the very foundation of the United States was built on the exact opposite premise. 1773. The Boston Tea Party. History has sanitized it, turned it into a quaint story about men in powdered wigs upset over the price of the beverage. It was nothing of the sort. It was a cold, hard realization that the British Crown had stopped seeing the colonies as a people and started seeing them as a revenue stream. The Great Divorce from the UK didn't happen because of a 3-penny tax on tea. It happened because of the principle of ownership. The colonists understood a truth that has been beaten out of you. The moment a government claims a right to your labor without your absolute consent, you are no longer a citizen. You are a resource. You are a crop to be harvested. Taxation without representation wasn't just a slogan. It was a declaration of war against the idea that a distant elite has a lien on your life. America was founded by smugglers, tax evaders, and rebels who would rather burn the harbor to the waterline than surrender their sovereignty to a king's ledger. We were a nation born of the no. But look at the state of the land of the free today. The kings didn't go away. They just traded their scepters for tax codes and their armies for auditors. They've spent centuries domesticating you, teaching you to check your pay stub, see half your life energy stolen before it even hits your bank account, and simply shrug your shoulders. The divorce from the UK was meant to end the era of being farmed for the glory of an empire, but the machine has rebuilt itself, larger and hungrier than ever. It has become a global ATM for a bureaucracy that despises you. You think you're paying for civilization? You think you're paying for the common good? Open your eyes. Your tribute is no longer being used to build. It's being laundered, funneled, and weaponized. The money you surrender isn't going into your neighborhoods. It's being poured into a furnace of global conflict, where your hard-earned wealth is converted directly into shrapnel. Converted into shrapnel. Think about that for a second. You spend 40 hours a week, sometimes 60, trading the limited hours of your life for a paycheck. And before you can even buy bread for your table, the state has already reached into your pocket to fund a drone strike 10,000 miles away. We are told these aid packages are about democracy. We are told they are about global stability. $60 billion here, $100 billion there. It's a number so large your brain can't even process it. But I want you to process this. You never voted for it. There is no checkbox on your 1040 form that says, would you like $5,000 of your labor to go toward a missile that will level an apartment complex in a country you couldn't find on a map? No, they take it. They take it because they know that if they asked, the answer would be a resounding, earth-shaking no.
It's a giant global laundering scheme. Your taxes go to Washington.
Washington sends them to a foreign government. That foreign government uses the money to buy weapons from the very same defense contractors who fund the campaigns of the politicians who sent the money in the first place. The money makes a full circle, and the only person who loses is you. You are the battery powering a machine that manufactures death. They've convinced you that this is the way of the world. They tell you that the adults in the room need to manage these complex geopolitical chess games. I've lived in those rooms. I've seen those adults. They aren't geniuses. They are vampires who have found a way to turn your sweat into their gold. And don't think for a second that this generosity is limited to foreign battlefields. While they're busy buying bombs in your name, they are also letting the domestic coffers be raided by the most transparent, insulting scams imaginable. Because why would they protect your money? It's not their money, it's yours. To them, the treasury is just a bucket with 1,000 holes, and they don't care who's standing underneath with their hands out. In fact, while you're worrying about the wars abroad, you should take a long, hard look at what's happening in your own backyard. Because the fraud isn't just happening in high-rise offices in D.C. It's happening in empty storefronts and ghost community centers that are bleeding you dry while nobody even bothers to check if the doors are unlocked. The rot has reached your front porch. While you're breaking your back to make ends meet, the government is handing your hard-earned wealth to ghosts. Look at Minnesota. A few weeks ago, a YouTuber with a camera, not a government auditor, not an FBI agent, just a man with a lens, walked up to a string of daycare centers in Minneapolis. These places were pulling in millions of dollars in taxpayer-funded benefits. And what did he find? Nothing. Locked doors, darkened windows, empty rooms. Between just 2 of these centers, they were siphoning off $3 million a year. One center alone reportedly took $4 million despite not having a single child enrolled. This isn't a clerical error. This is a heist. And here is the kicker, the part that should make your blood boil. The state regulators, they investigated these places months ago. They looked at the empty rooms, the fake rosters, and the ghost employees, and they stamped them approved. They told you everything was fine, while $250 million was being stolen through Feeding Our Future, the largest COVID-era fraud in the country. Now the estimates are climbing to $1 billion, maybe $9 billion lost to fraud in Minnesota alone since 2018. Think about the scale of that incompetence, or more likely, complicity. They have the resources to track every single one of your crypto transactions. They have the manpower to audit a plumber for a $500 discrepancy, but they can't find hundreds of millions of dollars flowing into empty buildings. They aren't looking because it isn't their money. It's a giant trough, and the bureaucrats are happy to let the scammers feast as long as the tax revenue keeps flowing in from the suckers. That's you. You are the one being audited. You are the one being threatened with jail. Meanwhile, the people stealing millions are buying real estate and luxury cars with your tribute. This is the civilized society you're paying for, a system where your labor is stolen to fund foreign wars you didn't vote for, and domestic frauds that a kid with a smartphone can expose in 20 minutes. The social contract is dead. It wasn't broken by you, it was shredded by them. And if the contract is dead, then your obligation to fund it is over. It is time to stop being the battery for a machine that only knows how to consume. It is time to pull the plug.
So we've established the crime, and you understand your labor is being harvested like wheat to fund wars you didn't choose and to fill the pockets of scammers in empty buildings. You are the silent partner in a firm that specializes in destruction and fraud. Now you have a choice. You can stay in the harness, or you can cut the straps. The tax strike isn't just about not paying. It's about disengagement. It's about the fundamental realization that the machine cannot run without your consent, and your money is your consent. They tell you that a strike is impossible, that they'll find you, that they'll crush you. They want you to feel small. But remember, there are millions of you, and only a few thousand of them. If the hive stops producing honey, the beekeeper starves. But don't be a martyr. Don't just stand in the middle of the street and scream, "I'm not paying." That's how you end up in a cage. You have to be smarter than the beast. You have to move your life into the shadows where their reach fails. This is where the tools of freedom come in. I've been screaming this from the rooftops for years. Privacy is the only true currency. If they can see it, they can seize it. If they can track it, they can tax it. You need to move your wealth into systems that don't have a back door for Uncle Sam. Start with your digital perimeter. Use tools like Aintivirus, not the bloated corporate junk that reports your every move back to the mothership, but a shield designed by those of us who actually understand what security means. It's built to defend your digital freedom, not compromise it. And for God's sake, get out of the digital ether when it counts. Reclaim the weight of real value. Gold, silver, physical metals. They hate gold because they can't print it, and they can't delete it with a keystroke. It is the ultimate no to the central banking experiment. When you move your labor into a shielded pool using privacy coins like Zcash, Monero, or the decentralized protocols that treat your financial business as your business, you aren't just hiding money, you are reclaiming your soul. You are taking the bullets out of their guns and the ghost checks out of their hands. Now, you'll notice a lot of noise lately. You've got celebrities and politicians suddenly joining the cause, shouting about tax strikes and government waste from their million-dollar podiums. Are they right? Yes, they're absolutely right. Even a broken clock is right when the house is on fire. But never forget, they have an agenda. Those politicians aren't calling for a strike because they love your freedom. They're doing it because they want to be the ones holding the whip when the dust settles. They want to redirect the flow to their friends, their wars, and their scams. Listen to their words, sure, but don't follow their lead. A strike led by an elite is just a change in management. A strike led by you is a revolution. They will call you a criminal. They will call you a traitor. But let me ask you, who is the real criminal? The man who keeps the fruits of his own labor, or the government that takes it by force to fund the murder of children and the enrichment of thieves? The tax strike is the ultimate act of nonviolent revolution. It is the only way to stop the war machine without firing a single shot. It is the only way to force the bureaucrats to look at the empty daycare centers and realize the party is over. The exit door is open. All you have to do is walk through it. Stop fueling your own destruction. Stop being the battery. Wake up.